So reframing self-talk is a strategy where we take a statement like, I can't, I'm not able to, I won't ever, it's not possible, I never, I don't have the ability, right? All those negative beliefs, all those negative pathways, all those feelings about ourselves and our abilities that tell us a story about what we can and can't do. We talked about that a little bit last time on my video. And we look to reframe them. And to me, more importantly, we look to reframe them in a way that lands for us, that really connects with what we need and our beliefs about who we are in the moment. And so I think all of us have had an experience where we have an obstacle. Let's use something like courage. And we're faced with a situation and we find ourselves shaking our head and thinking, there is no way I can do that. I am not strong enough. I don't have the skills. I'm not brave enough, you know, and we start to engage in supporting these pathways and beliefs in ourselves about not having courage. And well-intentioned supports around us may come in and kindly remind us that we are courageous beings, and here are all the examples of times that we have done something courageous. And although very supportive, and you know, although we appreciate those comments, for some reason it just right by, right? We add to that thought, yeah, they don't know me very well. Or I know people think I'm courageous, but really inside I'm terrified. And although the compliment came, it didn't land, right? It right by. And that can happen a lot. That can happen when we are using positive affirmations. That can happen when we catch ourselves thinking something negative like, I don't have the courage to do this. And we, you know, shoulders up and, but I am courageous. And we hear the words and yet, right, doesn't land, doesn't hit. And sometimes it actually makes us feel worse, right? We go, why am I not courageous? Why do I want to be courageous? And yet, it's not me, right? And there's a couple of things there. One is this sort of sense of these strengths and abilities as being binary. We either have an ability or we don't have an ability, right? We either have courage or we do not have courage. We either have resilience or we do not have resilience. We either have happiness or we don't have happiness, right? We start to see this process as, actually we see it not as a process, we see it as binary. And so one of the first things that I would offer is that we have to change that a little bit, and how we can change seeing it as on and off to a process is in our wording, how we reframe the self-talk and the way we connect with that part of ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we do have courage. We do resonate courage. We do connect to that feeling. And when we can see it as a process within ourselves, a part of ourselves, then we can honor it. We can honor it for exactly as it is in that moment. And so this process of reframing negative thoughts would be to take a process or a thought such as, I'm not courageous enough to do this. And firstly, check it in, right? Wow, you know, I'm holding on to beliefs about myself. that have convinced me that courage is not something that I hold, right? And sometimes we can feel that in parts of the body. Sometimes, again, it makes us feel worse to acknowledge that about ourselves. But the great thing about acknowledging it is then we get to go, you know what? Actually, I have done things that are courageous. And we can reframe the wording around it. So we can take a statement like, I'm not courageous. And we can reframe it to be, I'm really learning to support my courage. Or I'm really stepping into experiences that show me my courage. I recognize that I am courageous, and I encourage myself every day to honor that courage. And by switching out the wording, by really reflecting on and honoring how we feel about our courage, we don't have to make this brazen statement of, I am courageous because I want to be. We can recognize that, we are a work in progress, and we can nurture that, as opposed to seeing it as, if I don't have it already, it's not part of me. And so that honoring, that landing, that nurturing it is exactly as it is, which is to recognize a feeling of not feeling courageous, and then honoring it by recognizing the strength it takes to do courageous actions, the commitment it takes to catch yourself when you are supporting a non-truthful belief like, I'm not courageous, and then replacing it and reframing it with this sense of growth and commitment to growth. I'm learning to honor my courage. I recognize that feeling courageous has been tough for me, and yet here I am taking on an experience that honors the courage I do have. And it's about landing, right? It's about those statements being truthful, being in resonance with how you feel while still being positive. And this can be a really important part of positive affirmations as well, right? We positive affirmations are incredibly important and incredibly supportive. And again, another way of creating new pathways of positive self-talk. And it's really important, if you find a positive affirmation, you find a list of positive affirmations, to really honor the wording, honor it in a way that resonates for you, honor it in a way, word it in a way that it does land, right? I work so hard every day to connect to my courage. I wake up every morning, and even though I feel afraid, I'm starting to connect to the part of myself that is courageous, right? Learning to, working on, supporting myself, nurturing, right? These are process words. These are supporting words. And what's amazing is, even if you find yourself on a pathway of negative self-talk, you can pause, right? Take that thought process, I'm too scared to take this on, and revisit it in that moment, right? Catch yourself. Wow, I that was really quite negative. That was critical. And, I do have strategies. I might not feel courageous, but I really am nurturing that part of myself and really nurturing that view of myself as someone who has done courageous things and has faced experiences that have been frightful for me. And that honors your courage, and that honors that feeling. And again, this reframing and what we would call this sort of landing of positive self-talk is something that you can do for yourself with any emotion or feeling or any fear, any belief about yourself. And again, I encourage you to first be aware when you're in negative self-talk. Second, don't try to change it as good as bad, or good or bad, or negative or positive, or am not. Honor it for exactly what it is, and then find the statement, find the feeling, find the encouragement that allows you to really recognize yourself as growing and as supporting yourself, and see how that nurtures, see how that grows on itself, and continue to push forward.